Chapter 9. Tahra stretched and rubbed her eyes as she sat up. After a moment, she took down her shelter door. The clouds were big, white, and very fluffy, as they always are right after it rains. She took a few minutes to imagine what it would be like to be a fairy and lie down on one of those big, fluffy clouds, and wondered what it would be like to sail across the sky. Tahra wondered what the world would look like from being up so high. She imagined what a life a fairy would be like, and all the fun things she would do, all the people she would help. She imagined all the places she would be able to fly over, and how many new places she would discover. Tahra let her imagination run with all the possibilities for several minutes. Then she chose the reddest apple from her Red Riding Hood basket to eat and give her a boost that she needed to start her day. Tahra decided to take a walk while she planned out what to do today. At that same moment, Beth was just waking up from her peaceful slumber. She sat up and looked at the clock as it read 8 o'clock. She had slept later than she had planned, but oh well, she needed the rest. Besides, she would have only gotten up an hour before, but she forgot to set her alarm. Just then, a man wearing a nice suit and tie knocked on the door and then came in the room carrying a tray with food. "I have brought you breakfast in bed," greeted the man happily. It wasn't that this hotel felt Beth deserved any more special treatment than any other of their guests. It was just they'd give a royal treatment to a guest every once in a while. Sure, they did it to be nice to the guests and make them feel special, but more than that, they wanted the guests to be happy and to give them good reviews for the hotel. This hotel never got many visitors and was the finest in town, so they needed the extra help, for they almost closed a few times already. The guests in the hotel could ask for this special treatment if they so desired, but they had done this one for Beth on their own free will. "Thank you," Beth responded sleepily, and wondering how they knew she would be up by now. She decided not to worry about it and let her day begin, assuming it was likely the typical time they would bring guests breakfast. Meanwhile, back at the Sea Paper, Tahra remembered a Saturday morning in the autumn when she and Kate had taken a walk. They admired the beautiful scenery and gentle breeze. At a lookout view on the mountains, it looked like a rainbow of trees down below, delicately swaying to the music of the wind. As they were standing there, a flock of golden eagles flew across the scene. Tahra was glad she brought her camera with while on the morning adventure. Then again, she almost always brings her camera with when she is going on a ride to simply enjoy nature. She put the photo in her nature scrapbook. Of course, half of the book is pictures of sunsets over the mountains. Bringing herself back to the present moment, Tahra walked past a tree that had the colorful paper growing on it. "That's it!" she shouted louder than she wanted to, but it didn't really matter. It wasn't like there were any other people on this island. Tahra knew exactly what to do now. She had taken a summer course on origami when she was younger, and could use different colored paper to make things out of origami. Fortunately, Tahra had memorized many different things to make because she found it fascinating and fun to know. The first thing that popped into her head was a dolphin, for this island reminded her of a beach. Tahra grabbed a few pieces of each color paper and went back to her shelter to get to work. Tahra found a large piece of bark that had fallen off of a tree, which she knew would become of use to her. She sat down on the side of her shelter with the paper pile lying beside her. Tahra took the gray paper and began to fold it into a dolphin. "No creature is complete without a name, so I'll name you Nicole. Now, of course, you can't be the only dolphin. Every dolphin has to have at least one other dolphin for company," she said, understanding Nicole would be lonely without another dolphin. Tahra took another gray paper, but this one had white speckles. It didn't take her long to fold another dolphin. "I will name you Snowflake, because your speckles look like snowflakes. You will be Nicole's younger sister," she explained to no one other than herself, even though she pretended the paper creature could hear her. Tahra picked the two up and placed them on the paper wave. Meanwhile, Beth was sitting in her car getting ready to take off. The time she pulled out of the hotel parking lot was 9 a.m. She was fully energized and ready to face the traffic of the day. However, knowing it was Sunday, Beth figured there shouldn't be nearly as much traffic as there had been yesterday. It was her choice to leave on a Saturday, so she had to deal with the traffic. At least she was able to split the long drive into 2 days instead of fighting through one extremely endless drive. Plus, she was most of the way there by now, so her hopes were high and she had a new determination. At the same time, Kate came walking down the dark red carpeted stairs. Most of the time on the weekends, Kate liked to sleep in and normally got up between 9 and 10. Nick was in the kitchen preparing breakfast, making Kate's favorite, chocolate chip pancakes and bacon. She didn't even need to ask what he was making. She recognized the scent as soon as she came downstairs. She took a seat and Nick placed her plate down in front of her. Then he sat down with his favorite type of pancake, strawberries with whipped cream all over it. If Tahra were there, she would be having something like cereal because she absolutely hates pancakes, which they like to all tease her about. Back at the sea of paper, Tahra finished making 2 parrots who she named the girl Burst and the boy Flame. She was having a lot of fun creating paper creatures, and as she made each one, it felt almost like magic. In her head, she swore she could hear a voice she had never heard before coming from the creature in her head saying, "A pleasure to meet you, Tahra." She knew she was crazy and that it was only her imagination giving them a personality and a voice. But she wondered why the voices she heard were unfamiliar to her. On the road, Beth was glad she left late enough that she had missed the morning rush hour traffic. But then again, it was Sunday and not many people worked on Sundays. The way yesterday ended and today started, it seemed like her luck was turning around and siding with her. Beth only hoped it would last to help her keep her emotions from surfacing again. She hated crying as much as she had been recently, and the tormenting memories and thoughts passing through her mind at every hour. As she drove, she felt the presence of Ava, although the angel never showed herself. It calmed Beth sensing the angel near and helped her remain tranquil. Back on the Smoky Mountains, Kate finished eating, and then she went outside to the crisp morning air. She ran back inside and grabbed her sweatshirt off the rack that was located by the door. Nick soon followed her outside, grabbing a light jacket on the way out, having took note the temperature was lower this morning. Outside in the stables, Nick and Kate were feeding the horses. A sunbeam streamed into the stable and made Moonlight's white streaks glow like the moon shining down. "Well, Kate, it's getting late. We better get going to bed," claimed Nick, slightly sarcastic. "Dad, what are you talking about? It's only morning," questioned Kate, not getting at all what he is saying. Nick smiled and replied, "I see the moon shining down, don't you?" Alas, Kate looked up, meeting eye contact with Nick, and saw his sarcastic smile. Then she saw he was looking at the sun on Moonlight. "Oh, Dad, I should have known you were referring to the sun shining on your horse." She giggled a little and then got back to taking care of Lily. Meanwhile, Tahra finished making 2 female bluebirds, Sky and Ocean. She also made a robin, also a female, Flutter. Now she is working on a male robin, which she planned to name Mason, as she didn't know what else to call the creature. Once again, as she finished each creature, Tahra heard a different voice speak to her. Tahra didn't care and liked it, and would think back each time, "Yes, it is wonderful to meet you." Many of the creatures she was making, she was not taught the origami class. Somehow these ideas struck her, and it felt like she needed to make certain species. Then magically, in her mind, she would be able to see clearly the instructions on how to fold the paper. It piqued her curiosity, and she wondered where this knowledge was coming from. She concluded she likely had done these creatures before and had simply forgotten, but it was resurfacing. At the same time, back on the mountains, Crystal was following Kate as she always did when Tahra and no one else was there to ride her. Scarlet was following Moonlight with Nick, which was odd, for normally it is the opposite. Normally Moonlight is following Scarlet and Beth, but not this time. Kate was making sure to take it easy with Lily. After all, she didn't want Lily to harm her hoof again, or make it worse after the incident yesterday. Lily didn't act as if it bothered her, but Crystal had her eyes fixed on her every step her sister took. Crystal didn't want her dearest and only sister to harm herself any more than she already did, so she was being very protective. While so, Tahra continued making origami animals. As of now, she had lots of different kinds of birds, butterfly, deer, squirrels, chipmunks, frogs, toads, monkeys, koala bears, and a few lizards. She was having fun making the animals, and it was the perfect way to spend time. On the piece of bark was where Tahra was carving their names, so that way she would not forget everything her imagination came up with. Now, her rock was getting dull from all the scraping of the wood. As before, Tahra got another rock and began to chip away at her rock to hone it. A little time passed, and Tahra's rock was sharp enough to keep carving. She looked up at the sky and found the sun. By its height in the sky, Tahra estimated the time to be around 11:30, but she couldn't be positive. Grabbing her pile of animals, she put them in her spare basket and got up to place them around the island. Even though they were not alive, she felt as though placing them around the island was giving the place more life. Then as she would walk around, she would see her creations and could pretend they were actually alive and make it some sort of game. Meanwhile, the sun was beating down through the trees on the mountain. It wasn't terribly hot, but it was tiring out the horses. Kate found a small stream and hopped off of Lily. Lily and Crystal bent down and began to lap at the clear, cool mountain water. The young girl sat aside of her horse and cupped her hands to get a drink. When Kate was younger, Tahra had taught her it was safe to drink mountain water because the rocks and soil cleaned it, as long as the water was flowing, that is. Crystal sent a mischievous glance at Lily, who looked back, confused, not understanding what the mare was planning. Crystal walked around Lily quietly and slowly. Then she pushed Kate into the stream with her muzzle. Kate came out laughing but shivering, for the mountain water was freezing. "Oh, Crystal, some days you have a lot of humor," giggled the girl. Often Tahra and Crystal would come up with a plan to pest Kate and Lily. Of course, they had gotten used to it by now and were forming their own plans to get them back, but not always was she on guard. All of a sudden, Lily collapsed. Crystal ran over to her sister in panic, but Kate just laughed. Lily knew that Crystal was worried about her ever since she twisted her hoof, so she pretended her hoof hurt and caused her to fall. Kate could tell Lily was acting because Lily gave Kate the same look Crystal had given her only a moment before. On the road, Beth looked at the clock and it read 12 o'clock. Although that is lunchtime, Beth crossed into New York and only had an hour and 45 minutes left until she would get to New York City. Now she just really wanted to get there. She had been riding in silence for a while and decided, now that her spirit was lifted, she would play her cheerful, upbeat Irish music. Plus, it'd help the rest of the journey speed up and get there far faster than silence could ever encourage. The tune floated out of the speakers and lilted into her ears, placing a smile instantly on her face. Beth was extremely thankful she was able to control her mood a lot easier today as compared to yesterday, when she kept dwelling on everything bad. At the Sea of Paper, the sun was warm today, warm enough to swim in the stream, but Tahra didn't feel like doing that today. So instead she sat down aside of the stream. She pulled out an apple from her pocket and took a bite. Tahra loved apples, but right now she longed to have a real meal. She wondered how much longer she would be stuck here, and maybe even forever. She knew she'd get tired of eating apples and blueberries and would need to find something else. Maybe, if she would be here forever, she would find a way to make pie using the resources available. Then she started to worry, how would she survive the winter? That same moment, Kate and Lily continued on until they heard loud peeping. They came to a stop and looked up to the tree where the sound was coming from. There were 4 baby birds calling out to their mother. Just then, one of the babies fell out of the nest. Kate leapt off of Lily and ran over to the falling bird. She reached out her hands and saved the young one's life. She only hoped the mother would take it back, knowing sometimes after a baby has been touched, the mother would reject it. This bird was so young, its eyes weren't even open yet. Then a robin came flying down from a branch. The robin landed on Kate's hand. Kate assumed that was the mother bird. The robin plucked one of her loose feathers out and put it in Kate's hair. Then she swooped her little baby up, putting her on her back. After that, the robin took off to her nest. Kate smiled, glad that the mother took her baby back. Kate took a close look at the feather and realized it is the rarest kind of robin in the world. There are only about 2,500 left across the world. At a quick glance, they look like ordinary robins, but look real close and see that each feather tip has white speckles. Also, their chest is more yellow than orange. This species is known as a golden speckled robin. Kate couldn't believe she was lucky enough to see one, let alone hold one. In fact, some even believe it is a myth and that these creatures have magic. At least that is what Tahra taught her from one of the books she had read. Tahra also read in that same book, seeing one would bring that person good luck. She hoped it were true, so now she would have good luck and find her sister. Kate put the beautiful rare feather back in her hair to keep it safe. Then she climbed aboard Lily, and they continued on. Perhaps this was a good sign they would find Tahra today. At least she could hope. Meanwhile, Beth came to a small town along the driving route. She decided to get lunch to go, as it would be far quicker than wasting time to sit and eat. Her excitement was rising more with each passing second, for she had only an hour to go until she would reach her destination. As of now, she hadn't gotten stuck in any traffic. Beth hoped it would stay that way, but she figured going into the city would definitely be crowded. However, the thought of almost being there had her calm and a tiny bit enthusiastic. Much like her mother, Tahra was calm, enjoying the beautiful spring day. although she would have rather been home. It bothered her having to enjoy the beauty of the island and the day all alone with no one to talk to. However, she is thankful for the breeze that stirred the wind chimes and kept her mind from going insane. She lied there on the golden sand, watching the pretty shaped clouds floating across the sky and changing shape. She was playing the cloud alphabet game, finding the shapes of the clouds by letter. The first one looked like an airplane, the second looked like a balloon, and the third like a cat. It was entertaining seeing what forms her mind could make from the clouds. She also let her mind think of Rosehood and what her imaginary parents Robin and Red Riding Hood could possibly be up to. Back on the trails of the mountains, Kate was getting hungry now as it had been beyond lunchtime. She felt her belly rumble like thunder, and she knew she could not go on any longer without pausing to eat. Luckily, she was near a stream, so the horses could get a drink and take a break also. It was a good thing that streams and mini rivers were very common on the mountains, because it made exploring and searching so much easier. Kate learned her lesson last time not to sit right next to the stream, as she was still wet from earlier, so she sat down against a tree a distance from the water. She took off her backpack and got out her lunch along with apples and oats for the horses so they could replenish their energy as well. Just as Beth had predicted, it was packed going into the city, but with 6 lanes the cars were moving at a good pace, definitely faster than any spot she had encountered yesterday. Beth pulled into the parking lot of her hotel as the time shone 2 o'clock. Beth couldn't believe she finally made it. Yesterday it felt as though this moment would never come and she was on the road to nowhere. The man at the counter showed Beth to her room, and she started to unpack her bag. At the same time, Tahra made it to the letter Z. Now her game was over. With nothing else to do, she decided to take another walk. Tahra was running out of things to do and wondering how she would survive each day if she never found a way home. In time, she figured more things to do would become clear. For now, though, another walk would do. Perhaps she figured an inspiration for a song would come to her and she could start drafting another idea, especially because the entire aisle was full of suggestions. However, she chased that notion away, knowing the only options to document any lyrics were either to carve it into the bark, which would take so much time and effort, or to spell the words in the sand, which was at risk of being blown away by the wind. The only paper she could potentially put her thoughts on were the ones growing on trees, but she had neither a pen nor a pencil to mark the sheet, so she restrained herself from writing any lyrics. Meanwhile, Kate finished eating lunch and went back on Lily. Crystal clearly was re-energized and she was pacing back and forth, waiting to go, and had been for the last 10 minutes. Plus, she was anxious to get on the way so she could find her favorite rider. "I know you want to get going, and we are going now," Kate informed Crystal as she put her trash back into her lunchbox. The mare stopped pacing and began to walk normal again, glad they were pulling out. Lily took one last sip of water from the stream and then eagerly went over to Kate. Her rider then leapt up and set off. At that moment in the hotel in New York, it was 2:30, time for Beth to leave for her meeting with her publisher, for the meeting would start at 3 o'clock. The place where they were meeting, Fly High Publishing, named in honor of the owner's late sister, had grown her wings too soon, wasn't too far from the hotel Beth was staying at, so Beth decided to walk. Besides, walking would get her there possibly quicker, knowing the traffic in New York on any given day. It also would be safer, more likely than trying to drive with the insane and impatient people all over the streets. Still, though, she knew walking would be an adventure in itself. With all the crowded sidewalks and people shoving each other, Beth took a deep breath before leaving the safety of the hotel and double-checked she had everything she could possibly need. In the magical realm, the clouds were disappearing with only a few big ones remaining. Tahra was glad today was not a rainy day, unlike yesterday, although she did not mind the rain. However, she preferred bright, sunny days. With nothing else to do, she decided to imagine all the animals she had created playing a scene, making a movie that she was watching. She figured that would be a good way to keep her from missing home, and a fun way to pass the time. Perhaps this would even become a daily pattern, and each day would be a new episode of her new TV show, which Tahra decided she would call The Sea of Paper. She began to play the first episode, which she narrated in her head. Episode 1, Tahra titled "Welcome to Our Island," and went as follows. Deep within the Atlantic Ocean, hidden from sight of all humans, was a beautiful, lush island. Day in and day out, all the creatures obeyed their incredible leader, Nicole. The creatures never dreamed anything would ever change, until one morning. The sun was peeking above the horizon, and very few creatures were awake. The early morning birds were singing their sweet tunes, welcoming the new day, and Nicole was swimming around the clear blue sea. Then everything changed, and out of nowhere a young girl appeared fast asleep on the shore. Slowly more creatures started to wake and notice the little human lying on the sand. They all began questioning, where did she come from? How did she get here? And who was this strange girl? Nicole ordered the creatures to remain quiet so they wouldn't wake her. Nicole promised they would question her once she awoke. The little girl awoke, startled to see a strange land and a ton of creatures staring straight at her. She looked towards the sea and saw Nicole and her sister Snowflake. Nicole smiled, sensing she could trust the young one. "Young one, what is your name?" she inquired gently. The young girl was clearly surprised to see the dolphin talking, so it took her a moment to respond, "Meadow." Nicole smiled and replied, "What a gorgeous name! Where did you come from, and how did you get here?" "I'm from the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee, and I have no clue how I got here. I don't even know where I am." "My dear, this is the Sea of Paper." "Why is it called that? The water is not paper." "You see, a long time ago the water used to be paper. Then one day the Fairy Queen decided to stop by for a visit. She turned the water to the purest around and informed the inhabitants how precious this island truly was and told them it needed to be protected. The Fairy Queen declared the two dolphins as the leaders, my ancestors. As time went on, the spell shielding this island from humans, which the Fairy Queen had cast, worked with no flaws. The role of leader was passed on until it was given to me. Next in line would be my sister Snowflake, or a child of mine. Never in my life did I see a human until now. If you do not know how you got here, and no human has ever been here before, perhaps the Fairy Queen brought you here, though I don't know why." "Indeed I did," claimed the Fairy Queen, appearing. She wore a marvelous golden gown with long flowing cape and the color of the wind flying out behind her as she walked along the sand. Her long sun-golden hair blew in the breeze with her crystal eyes sparkling in the light. The creatures all knelt down, bowing to their queen and guardian. Meadow, not wanting to be disrespectful, began to bow too. "Cut it out, Meadow. You do not need to bow before me. None of you do. It is I who should bow before all of you for protecting this sacred island. Meadow, do you know why your mother named you Meadow?" "Well, she says it's because I'm her little flower," Meadow replied quietly, as she was shy. "I'm sure you are, but she had more than that in mind. She knew you were destined to be here. She named you Meadow because of your deep connection to nature and animals. Your mother knew you were destined to be the next fairy queen of this sacred island. In fact, your mother is right behind those vines over there. She's waiting for you so she can show you around the secret world, which the creatures never knew existed until this moment. You are to be the new guardian of the island, so that all that is left to say is welcome to our island." Tahra imagined the rest of the episode showing Meadow around the peaceful island and all the creatures celebrating a fun party with their new guardian. Tahra smiled to herself at all the fun this was, and figured maybe later she would pretend she was the fairy queen who turned the paper into water. She imagined how cool it would be to be the fairy queen and have the power to turn the paper into water, and all the creatures too would be alive. In New York City, Beth arrived at the building 10 minutes early like she did to any time she had to be somewhere at a certain time. She paused outside looking at the glowing logo and smiled, totally unaware of the meaning behind it. Jennifer, Beth's publisher, came out from the hallway. She has strawberry blonde hair that comes down to her mid-back. Today she had her silky hair pulled back in a ponytail. "Beth, you're here early." "Oh well, follow me," Jennifer instructed, forgetting the real reason she had gone out there. Beth followed the publisher down a hallway, and then they went into her room, which was Jennifer's office, and she closed the door behind her. "The last book you sent me was your best yet. I'd like to ask you how you got so good," started Jennifer, clearly leading up to something more. "I honestly have no clue. Maybe from practice? I was going through a box in the closet. I came across a story I started way back in 7th grade. I read over it, and luckily it turned out I still remembered where I was going with it. Not only did I remember what it was about, but I had all these new ideas as well," replied Beth. "That's wonderful. By any chance was your 7th grade teacher—" Knock, knock, the door opened, and Jessica, Jennifer's secretary, entered. "Excuse me, Miss Jennifer, you are needed downstairs in the secret room, inside the printing room at once," explained Jessica. "Oh, okay. Please excuse me, Beth. I'll be back shortly," Jennifer informed, standing up from her chair. She knew it had to be something serious, given the fact that Jessica addressed her so formally. which she never did unless something drastic was occurring. "Okay, no need to rush. I have all the time in the world," replied Beth politely. However, deep down she was irritated and really wanted the meeting to be over with so she could go home. She had no news from home and was anxious to know something. Beth repeatedly clicked the top of her pen to help her ease down and spun her wedding ring around her finger. Back on the Smoky Mountains, Kate and the horses were still going up the trail, silently searching for Tahra. "We need to take another path we weren't on yet and start heading back. Otherwise, we'll not make it back before it gets dark," informed Kate. Crystal especially seemed less energetic than she was earlier. After all day of walking, it made sense for her and Lily to both be tired. However, even though Crystal was tired, she was determined to find Tahra, and she didn't want to stop looking. At least exploring another path would be the answer to returning and searching. In New York City, downstairs, Jennifer opened the door to the printing room, not knowing what to expect. She figured something needed to be fixed on one of the printers, such as a jam, but then why didn't Jessica just call the tech support? Typically, if there is a technical issue with the printing room, the tech people would be quick on the case. Besides, they had all the knowledge and not Jennifer, so it was interesting that she was needed. Without hesitating, she flew the door open and was stunned. Ink was flooding everywhere. "What on earth happened in here?" exclaimed Jennifer, blown away to see what she was seeing. "This is not the biggest concern. Come into the secret room," warned Jessica, remaining calm. The ink in the printing room had gone under the door to the secret room, which was located off to the side. The shelf with all the books there had fallen over. Every last book was drenched in ink. The computers that were on the table had ink splattered all over them from the shelf crashing and causing the puddles to jump all over. Jennifer worked so hard creating this room. She is the head of everything. She owns this place. It was her idea to make this little room. The secret room was like her second office, where she could be alone and work or write. Although it was mainly used by Jennifer, the others used it too and had their laptops sitting on the large table. She wrote and published every book on that shelf that now lay clipped in the ground with ink. Jennifer said nothing, but in her face it was clear she was upset. "I'm sorry. I know you worked so hard on all those books. When the shelf fell, it landed on Samantha's leg. It turns out that she sprained her ankle," Jessica spoke at last. Jennifer walked over towards the shelf but slipped on the ink. Now her pretty white shirt was covered in ink. Anyone who would see her now would think it was a black shirt, for there was only a tiny patch of white visible. She really didn't care her destroyed shirt, though, compared to everything else that was a wreck. She staggered over to the shelf and grabbed her first book she had ever written. It was covered in ink from cover to cover. Quivering, she opened it up to find the pages were destroyed. The black ink had soaked through and blurred out the words across the pages to the point it was unreadable. "How did all this happen?" inquired Jennifer, trembling and trying her very hardest not to cry. Jessica remained silent, knowing she needed to give her a minute before responding. Jennifer stood up, still holding her first book tightly to her chest as if she were a child. Then she ran off, allowing a tear to slip. "Where are you going?" Jessica called after her. Turning around to face her secretary, she responded, "Home." Jennifer burst in the door of her office, withholding her emotions once more. "Beth, I'm going home. Come back here tomorrow at 2:00 to finish our meeting," she instructed, suddenly grabbing her bag. "Why? What happened?" implored Beth, worried and seeing the ink covering Jennifer's shirt. "Nothing, only a little trouble with the printers." "Do you need my help with anything?" Beth questioned, feeling bad seeing Jennifer so upset. "No, I'm fine, but thanks." Jennifer forced a smile and walked out of her office before her writer would see her crying. Beth was confused and wondering what had happened. She took notice that Jennifer was covered in ink and looked very distraught. She also took notice she was holding a book, but didn't know which one it was. At last she decided she should not worry about it and headed back for her hotel for the rest of the day, for that was all really she could do. Back at the sea of paper, all the clouds have run off the sky, creating a pure and energetic scene. Tahra was really having fun, imagining all the animals running and playing. It was definitely giving her something to do, and of course she was making it crazy, adding twists all over. Oddly, she felt like she wasn't thinking of a story. In fact, she felt as though it were actually happening. She could hear the voices in her head, as she could before when she had made them. It was strange that she heard a different voice for each character, but she knew it was only her imagination. She didn't mind it either, because it made it far more entertaining than hearing the same voices repeatedly. On the mountains, Kate was never on this path before, so To her, it was an adventure. It also meant she had to really rely on the map, though, to prevent her from getting lost. Crystal and Lily were glancing all over the trail, fascinated, as they too realized it was a different path than they had tread before. Then Kate came across a cave. Perhaps Tahra is in there, suggested Kate to both horses. She knew Tahra would have been smart enough if she had gotten lost to stay in a cave where the nights would not be as cold. It would make sense if Tahra had never been on this path, that she couldn't find her way home and stayed in this cave for safety. Maybe it wasn't that, and perhaps Tahra injured herself and could not leave, so she remained in this cave. Kate hopped down off of Lily. "I'll be back," she told the mares. She walked up to the cave's entrance. "Tahra, are you in here?" "Shh," a voice from within the cave responded. Kate's heart began pounding. Could it be Tahra? Had she found her sister at last?